resume the public portion of our meeting tonight. And next on the agenda is our student and staff recognitions. I've asked Directors Benevento and Mendoza to join our superintendent in recognizing some of our achievements.
Good evening, everyone. The Board of Education is proud to recognize the achievement of several of our amazing schools and one of our fantastic students and two of our talented teams tonight. First, I'd like to invite Nancy Wortman, Luann Ezra, Kelly Smith from Flagstone and Copper Mesa Elementaries to come up, please, and the members of their teams they brought with them. I see a few folks in green down here that I think are part of the group. We would like to honor Flagstone and Copper Mesa Elementary Schools for being named Green Flag Schools. The Green Flag Award is the top honor given by Eco Schools USA. Flagstone and Copper Mesa are the 14th and 15th schools in the United States and the first in Colorado to achieve Green Flag status. Through school-based action teams of students, administrators, educators, and community volunteers, Eco Schools combines effective green management of the school grounds, facilities, and curriculum. Congratulations to Copper Mesa and Flagstone for being awarded Green Flag Schools. And I have to give a shout out to our sustainability manager, Lee Smith. He's in the back in green. Lee and his team have inspired thousands of students like these that you see before you all the way up through high school. And as a result of student work across the district, over 6 years, Lee and his team have saved the district about $15 million in energy savings. And that money has been repurposed for classrooms. So congratulations, Lee, and to all of you. So Luann, I was just going to ask you, who did you bring with you?
I'll let them introduce you. Sure, ready to talk to you.
It's on you. Hope you're ready.
My name is Preston Hodges. I'm a 6th grade student in Mrs. McGrain's class.
Okay, and how are you part of the Copper Mesa Green team?
Well, I've helped by doing small and simple things with the rest of the team, such as helping recycle whenever we have a meeting. We would help do the one run to make sure that everybody was saving electricity, and would just help to encourage students to try to recycle and save electricity.
Well, good job. And so these are your teammates? Do you want to tell us your names?
I'm Charles Schwartz. And I'm Pierce Hoffman.
Well, congratulations to all of you guys. Welcome over here to Flagstone. Now, Flagstone, you guys have won the Green Flag, but also the Green Ribbon Award, right?
That's correct.
I think that's still working. Okay. And who did you bring with you? Nancy or Kelly? Does somebody want to introduce here?
We'll do the same thing.
Well, my name is Torin Fudgewood. My name is Jane Hodge.
My name is Tegan Jordan.
My name is Brooklyn Hodge.
My name is Travis Olson.
My name is Rachel Hodge. My name is Snow Jordan. My name is Pilar Hodge.
Well, congratulations to you guys, too. Do you have a spokesperson or a leader here? One of you want to tell us a little bit about what you've done at Flagstone?
Go ahead.
Okay. Tell us all about it.
We have this little program for TerraCycle where we put Capri Suns and Lunchables into a basket alone so that we don't throw away as much waste as we would. So we just save waste and do TerraCycle.
Great. Congratulations to all of you. Well done. Sure. Oh, Nancy
Chantel Aspler in the back, along with Lee. They have been instrumental in starting the sustainability action at Flagstone, and these guys have kept it going, so thank you so much. Way to go. And for our Sarah Podchwick, one of our parents, who volunteers to be on our No Waste Lunch Day and is diligently there to help us learn.
And Mindy, our photographer.
and Mindy, the photographer. Okay, I think we've got everybody. Thank you so much, Nancy. That was really helpful.
Yeah, we're gonna do. Sorry. Here, everybody smile. Here we go. Ready, 1, 2, 3. It's coming. Promise. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Let's do it one more time. Everybody smile. Ready, 1, 2, 3. All right. Good job.
Great, congratulations, thank you. Next, I'd like to invite Kendra Hosfeld, and if she has anyone with her, please come forward. Here she comes. And she's got friends too. We would like to recognize one of our charter schools tonight. Kendra Hosfeld is the co-principal at North Star Academy. This week, the Character Education Partnership, or CEP, named 29 schools, including the Douglas County School District's North Star Academy, to its roster of National Schools of Character. Each school is recognized for its commitment to character education and for fostering a positive environment for social and academic learning. The National Schools of Character will be featured at the National Forum on Character Education, October 24th through the 27th, 2013, in Washington, D.C., where they will share their secrets to success. Congratulations to you guys. So do you guys know something about this award and what you did? Yeah? Do you feel comfortable telling us a little bit about it? No?
Basically, at North Star Academy, we believe that part of our mission is to provide a safe and nurturing environment. And so one of the ways that we do that is through character. We think it's important to teach good character values and then not just stop there. We believe that teaching is important, but doing is equally important. And so we have a lot of service projects that we do throughout the year. And so some of the things we've done in the past, we've contributed just recently 1,500 books to the Children's Hospital. They had a virus deplete their library, so that was one of the most recent things that we've done. But we help anybody in need. That's something that we feel strongly about, and it's not just outside of our community. We serve each other. We are K-8 school, and the one unique thing about having a K-8 school is our 8th graders can really help serve our younger students, and so I know that these kiddos here have had 8th grade buddies help them with reading, and we do a lot of service and teaching. So thank you.
Great, thank you for being here. Okay, congratulations. Next, we would like to bring up two of our winter percussion ensemble teams. The Douglas County High School team, the director is Nick Bittinger, but he's not here tonight, so Alyssa McCollum, please come up. And the chaparral team is Director Fred Bullis. I believe Fred is here. Each team traveled. Okay, each team traveled to the 2013 Rocky Mountain Percussion Association State Tournament, and both teams placed first in the state. Douglas County's Winter Percussion Ensemble placed first in Percussion Scholastic Concert Open, we'll ask them what that is, and Chaparral's Winter Percussion Ensemble placed first in Percussion Scholastic Concert World. Congratulations to both of these outstanding teams. So a member of the Douglas County Ensemble, who would like to kind of talk about what Percussion Scholastic Concert Open means? Oh, all right, you're the one. That's great.
Well, pretty much Percussion Scholastic Concert Open is like, it's the second highest ranking for all the ensembles, and concert, there are two different types. We have the concert and then we have the marching, and the marching involves a drum line behind us. But we did concert, so it was only all the mallet instruments and a few of the auxiliary instruments.
Thanks, that's helpful. Okay. And how about, did she just explain the concert world part for you guys? Pretty much? Okay. That's all right, that works out okay. Just the next division up? Okay. This is great. All right, well, congratulations to both of you. We want to get two separate pictures, Randy? Okay, we're going to get two separate pictures, so if we can get the board members over here with the Douglas County team first.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's do it one more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good job, guys.
Okay, next if we could have the chaparral team kind of move over, we'll switch places here. So does this mean you're in charge if you get to hold the flag? So how was it going to? Oh, all three of you? Okay, so, all right, so since you're the captain, we'll ask you the question. So tell us about, what is this like going to this percussion ensemble experience?
It's definitely a new experience. It's a lot of teamwork and just having a lot of fun. We learn to work hard and have discipline, but also have a lot of fun with each other, and we become a family, really.
So do you move and play or just play?
We just play in concert, because we're in concert class as well.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, anything else you guys want to add?
I would just like to thank Mr. Steve Hinman. He's the band director at Chaparral, and he allows it to actually happen in the first place. A lot of schools, don't allow the ensembles to actually happen. So both Douglas County and Chaparral are fortunate. So and all the parents who have hands-on moving equipment and all that. This is a very hands-on activity with the parents as well. So.
Yeah, thanks to all the parents. I always thought I should have played the drums and not the saxophone, so I wouldn't have to carry anything but drumsticks. They're both good, but the drumsticks would have been easier to carry to school. That's true. But thank you, Mr. Hinman, for being here. Okay, so we're going to take a picture of the Chaparral team here.
Everybody together. Okay, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And one more time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hold on, guys. And together.
All right, congratulations, everybody. Finally, we would like to recognize our 2013 Better Scholarship recipients for the Douglas County School District. After rigorously considering more than 1,300 applicants, the Board of Trustees of the Better Foundation selected 40 Colorado high school seniors to receive the scholarship. These scholars are awarded full-ride, merit-based scholarships to attend a college or university within the state of Colorado. Each student has to be in at least the top 5% of his or her class, have a combined score of 1,200 on the critical reading and math sections of the SAT, or a 27 on the ACT. The following are the 2013 Douglas County Better Scholars. And I think only one is here, but if you're here, please do come forward. Amy Chen, Highlands Ranch High School. Cameron Coday, Chaparral High School. Yay, Cameron. Floyd Pierce, Highlands Ranch High School. Oh, Floyd. It may just be you and me. All right. Megan Stack, Rock Canyon High School. And Emily Wagner, Mountain Vista High School. So that is 5 Better Scholars for the Douglas County School District out of a total of 40 across the state selected. So as you can see, Cameron is the only one able to make it here tonight due to senior schedules and prior obligations. The other awards will be mailed to the scholars, and we wish them the best. Congratulations, Cameron. What a huge award. of your friends at Chaparral bring their drums. We could have had a whole Chaparral night here. So, we want to know, where are you going to school?
I'm going to see you.
Oh, congratulations. And what do you plan on studying?
I'm studying music education and math.
Oh, wow. You better write that one down, right? Yeah. Sorry.
My better teacher,
You're recognizing him as your best
Mr. Hinman.
Mr. Hinman is going to be her Betcher teacher recognized this summer at the Big Bang. Look at, he didn't know. She picked you. Congratulations. Brady, did you plan that? You're even better than I thought. That's good.
on Thursday, but.
So tell me what you, when everybody was clapping, she was talking about. I said, no, don't talk to me about this yet. You gotta tell everybody. So tell me what you said. Tell everybody what you said.
Oh, he's fantastic. I've been in band all 4 years, and without band, I wouldn't have been able to handle the academic load and everything else that I've been doing. And I love it. Obviously, I'm very, very proud of our winter percussion ensemble, and I've done marching band and jazz band and concert band and all of the above. And Mr. Hinman's been there every step of the way, and he's one of the band teachers. Is one of the only teachers we could have all 4 years, and so I mean, he's been there, and he's an amazing band director, and so it was an easy choice.
Wow. So Mr. Hinman, is there anything you want to say? I don't want to catch you off guard or anything. But, I mean, surprise, surprise. But wow, what an honor.
Well, I could just tell you that this is a very amazing young lady. And I've done this for 30 years, and I don't think I've ever had a student like her. I really, truly believe that. So thank you for that honor. I could receive an honor that's any more special.
Thank you for sharing and debuting these right here with us. We are so proud, and we have both of you right here at the awards. So congratulations to both of you, and thank you so much for representing our school district and for doing what you do with our students. Thank you. Congratulations. All right, that was an all-star moment. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
What is the special teacher?
Well, let's try to top that moment.
Yeah, that's a heavy lift, Mr. McMenemy, but I know that you're up for the challenge. I'll tell you, and mine was all serendipity, so that was a good deal. I wish you all, if you were all facing this way, I wish you could have seen the look on that teacher's face when she said that. He had no idea that she had picked him. His mouth hit the floor. It was so great. Loved it. Okay, here we go, superintendent's reports. First, we are going to start with Mr. McMenemy, who is going to give us a high school scheduling update. As you all recall, last year we were faced with a significant budget deficit, and also the students in the Douglas County School District were very clear with Mr. McMenemy and myself that some of their classes had gotten too large and they valued their electives, and they were really persistent about it. So we looked into that more, and we did ask our high school teachers to teach an additional section so that we could bring class sizes down, preserve electives, and make sure that we had adequate planning time for teachers. So we have periodically updated the board on how that has gone, and tonight Mr. McMenemy has sort of the final results, as close as you can get since we're not quite done with the school year, but pretty good, on the high school scheduling change. So, Mr. McMenemy.
Well, thank you for this opportunity this evening, Vice President Larson and directors. We're here to talk to you this evening about high school scheduling update. I know we've come before you several times this year to kind of give you an update on how things are going. We're getting toward the end of the year, so we have some really good data to share with you regarding what has actually happened in our buildings this year in regards to scheduling. So if you remember, last year between September and November of 2011, we were in a pretty difficult situation in Douglas County. Dr. Fagan already alluded to students coming to us and talking to us about overloaded classes. We heard it several places. We had several parent phone calls. We knew that things just weren't working the way that we wanted them to. We were also facing some budget deficits that we knew we were going to have to make some adjustments somehow, some way. And so it was a system decision that we made to do what we did with our high school schedules due to program erosion, elementary school and middle school considerations. That was the other part of the system we had to attend to. It wasn't just all about high schools. Large class sizes at all levels and prep time inequities. And then the point that we made last year, and I'd like to make again, and I can demonstrate it through data now, and I will this evening, is even if there was no cut to the SPB, we needed to make a change. And we have the data to support that tonight. So the goals of the new schedule in November of 2011, we wanted to talk about lower class sizes, preserving opportunities, developing a schedule that makes sure staff has sufficient planning time, and setting up a flexible situation where we're able to respond to a variety of possible budget scenarios. Now, we've gone through 2 different budgets since the time we made this decision, but you know as well as I do, it's a very volatile situation when we start going back and forth with here's what we think we're going to have, and here's what we're actually going to have, and then making decisions in February for the next year when we don't have a very clear idea of what the budget's going to look like. So we had to make a choice to go where we went to, knowing full well that we could respond to virtually any budget scenario that came forward. So here's what we did, and I gave you a handout tonight, and I'm going to go through this very quickly for you so you can interpret the data. We've also attached this to the board packet. Each school has a packet with all of this data in it. But one of the things that we did was we looked at teacher schedules. Every teacher schedule in 2011-12 and 12-13, we loaded into a spreadsheet. And let me give you some little interpretation on this spreadsheet. I'm looking at the one that has a lot of yellow on it. And reading from the top left corner, you can see this is Chaparral High School's sheet. And it has the area that the teacher teaches in, the last name, first name of the teacher, semester 1, semester 2. That first grouping of numbers, and I'll just take the first teacher there, 34, 35, 31, 31, 27. Those were the 5 courses that teacher taught first semester last year. That's why students were coming to us and going, are you kidding me? I'm sitting in a class with 35 students, or 34, or 31, or 31. As you read across that line, you'll see that teacher underneath the total column has a total student load of 158 students. Those are the kids that are assigned from semester 1. And then you look at the class average for that teacher. Their average class size was 31.6. Okay, so then you can look at their second semester schedule, 32, 33, 28, 27, 26. Obviously running the 5-7 schedule. They had 146 students for a class average of 29.2. So then we look at their schedule for this current year, and I'll read the numbers across for them first semester, 25, 19, 6, 24, 15, 31. Their total load was 120, and their class average went down to 20 kids per class. The far right-hand column illustrates how their load went down. So their total load went down by 38 students. They went from 158 kids to 120 kids. And their total class size, or class average, went down by 11.6 kids. If you look at that same teacher for second semester, same scenario. Their load went down to 113, their class average was 18.8. Their total load went down by 33 students. Their class average went down by 10.4. So when you look at this sheet, you can hold it far away if you want to. You don't have to look at the numbers. But what this really illustrates to me is all of the yellow boxes, those are classes that were above 30. So you can see in 2011-12, there's a significant number of classes at Chaparral High School that were above 30. This same model was replicated in virtually every one of our high schools. And you can see in 12-13, the number of yellow boxes changed dramatically. There's virtually no classes that are above 30. So if you flip that sheet over to the back, there's a summary for Chaparral High School on the very back of that, down toward the bottom. And I'm looking under the 2011-12 column, down where it says semester classes greater than 30. At Chaparral High School last year, there was 402 semester classes greater than 30. If you go across to the right, you can see the semester classes over 30 at Chaparral High School this current year was 103. So they went down by, I think that's 75%, I believe. That's a pretty dramatic number. That represents a significant impact to students when you're driving down class size. The next number below that was the semester class average less than 30. That's the total number of students that teacher served divided by the number of classes they had. So in the teacher's case here, you saw he had 31.6 students. You can see last year across Chaparral High School, there were 76 teachers that had at least one semester of greater than 30 students as an average, not as one course, but as an average in all 5 of their courses. That number changed to 7 teachers this year. That's a huge improvement. And then you can see the teachers that had a load of greater than 180 students. That's kind of our magic number. That's a number that we've been talking about, that we don't want teachers to have more than 180 students. Last year at Chaparral, there were 8 teachers, or 8 semesters worth of teachers. Okay, so 2 semesters is 1 teacher. There was 8 semesters of more than 180. This year there's 6 semesters of more than 180. So if you put in there, like take physical education, those are traditionally classes that have 35 or 40 students in them. When you're trying to run a team sports class, it's very difficult to run a team sports class with 20 kids in it. Yeah, it's a pretty small team. So you can see the numbers from these sheets dramatically illustrate what happened in our buildings for kids and for teachers. So there's one of these sheets for every single high school. We went through every single schedule of every teacher in every high school, and we included that data in these spreadsheets for you to see. And there's one for every single high school that's included in the board packet. So let me recap the average across our entire system. I think there's a single sheet in the back of that packet that you can follow along with. And it has no colors on it but red numbers. Now the red numbers in the parentheses in this case are good. It's this one right here. This is the total summation of all of this data that we collected around teacher schedules. But I'll give you some highlights. The average class size across our district decreased by 3.42 students. It went from 28.63 in all the classes we offer in Douglas County to 25.2 in all the classes we offer in Douglas County. That's thousands of sections of students being taught in our system. That is a significant difference for kids. You can see the high average in a building in 11-12 was 31.4. The low average was 26.2. And in 12 and 13, the high was 27.7, the low was 22.5. The teacher average class size per semester greater than 30. This is the number I was talking about, where you look at the total number of kids in their classes all the way across and how many of them are serving more than 30 students per class every year. You can see that decreased by 51.63 teachers. That means in 2011-12, there was, in average, in our buildings, there were 61 teachers that had a load greater than 30 kids per class. And this last year, that dove to 9.88. That's a significant difference for kids. and for teachers, by the way. And semester classes per building greater than 30, decreased by 210 semester sections per building. This isn't across all 9 buildings, this is per building. So 338 was the average in 11-12, so in any one of our high schools you would have walked in, the average would have been 338 semester classes that were greater than 30 students in them. We're talking English, math, science, social studies, virtually any class, there was a lot of sections of greater than 30. This last year, there's 128.13. So if you take 128.13, the average teacher teaches 12 classes now. That's about 10 teachers worth of sections. Each one of our high schools has at least 4 or 5 PE teachers, at least 2 or 3 music teachers, which those are courses that are traditionally going to be loaded bigger than that 30 per kid. But that represents a huge number for students as well. So in the recent TEL survey, there was a question in there that asked, teachers have reasonable class sizes. And the left-hand column is obviously the school. The next column over is what the answer, a number of people that agreed in 2011. 2013, how many people agreed? And over on the far right side is the percentage increase of people agreeing that teachers have reasonable class sizes. You'll notice there's 2 schools that don't have data, Highlands Ranch and Mountain Vista High School. The reason they don't have data is because they didn't have enough teachers take the TEL survey in 2011 to have their data recorded. I'll direct your attention down at the bottom. The average percent increase agreeing in Douglas County was 32.6%. And the number below that is the average for all Colorado senior high schools when asked the question, do we have reasonable class sizes? All across Colorado, there was a decline. So let's talk about teacher loads, because I know that was a big concern last year when we talked about adding another class. I think everyone thought we were just going to plunk another group of 30 students on every teacher. That's not what happened according to the data we collected. The increase in total load for teachers, remember we added another class, their increase in total load was 3.88 students. So what that means is that last year I had 150 students for 5 classes. This year I had 154 students for 6 classes. So that's a combination of driving down class size and also trying to manage the number of students they have to look over during the school day. And you can see the averages there for 11-12 and 12-13. On the far right-hand side, there was a significant change at 2 of our schools. There was 2 schools that the average teacher load actually was driven down. It's lower this year than it was last year, even with adding another class. And that's reflected on that sheet, that data sheet that I shared with you. I think Highlands Ranch was one of those schools. The teacher load greater than 180 students a semester. That number increased slightly from 6.38 to 8.25. Another one of our goals was create and preserve opportunities. You've heard multiple times this year of the great programs that are happening in our buildings as a result of the schedule we're running, is why we can do those things. Added fire science at Rock Canyon. You saw the numbers last time on AP, IB, and concurrent enrollment. You've heard the story about all of our CTE courses, and students have an opportunity to take those. Talk about core electives in science and math and social studies. All of those things exist today because of the choice we made last year. Sufficient planning time. This was a concern for us. This is why we went to 6 of 8 instead of letting buildings go to 6 of 7, which was the first discussion we had when we said, hey, your teachers are going to only have 1 prep time a day. The discussion initially started with teaching 6 of 7. There are other districts in the state of Colorado that are doing that right now. In fact, we talked to a candidate today that said, you know, it's like a prize fight. Teachers have to answer the bell every single period. And it's just continuous, day after day after day after day. Our building principals, through their leadership, did not want to do that to our teachers. So running a rolling AP block allowed them to preserve some prep time. So you can see that the minutes hasn't changed dramatically. There is a loss of prep time minutes, and I think that average is somewhere around the neighborhood of 20 minutes per week that our teachers are losing in order to run this schedule. But I would also say you don't have the number of passing times, you're not taking the number of roll every single day that you were taking in an older schedule. It's uninterrupted blocks of time as opposed to 2 single periods that you go for about 50 minutes, then you teach 3 classes, then you go for another 50 minutes. These are uninterrupted blocks of time for teachers to plan We do the business of preparing to do great lessons in our classrooms. So during the last 10 years in Douglas County, high schools have run these 4 schedules and a myriad of others, and we've talked about this before. There's virtually no schedule that Douglas County Schools has not run during the time that I've been here, okay? And student achievement has remained consistently high as a result of running these different schedules. So the next thing we wanted to do is we wanted to take a look at instructional time. And so what we did, that's the other packet that's in your booklet. We took the bell schedule from each school and we laid that over the school calendar, and then we laid it right down next to each other. So you can see this illustrates, again, Chaparral High School, and I picked Chaparral because they're the first school in the alphabet in our 9 high schools. So we're not picking on them specifically. In school year 2011-12, you can see August, September, it runs all the way through the year, and what we did is we said, okay, a kid in your building is taking English. Show me how much time they spent in that class in 2011-12 and then 2012-13. So pick one period and run it across the entire calendar. Rather than sit and talk in generalities of, well, there's 36 weeks of school and there's 5 days in the week. That doesn't happen all the time in our calendars in Douglas County. We have 4-day weeks, we have 3-day weeks, we have 2-day weeks, we have 5-day weeks. But the bottom line is that each school runs their own calendar, and students are in class periods a different amount of time depending upon what the school chooses to do. And so this is an actual representation of what happened to a student taking a course at Chaparral High School, one single course. If you go to the very end of this document, again, this summarizes what is found in here. So we were able to take a look at the total minutes spent in class semester 1, the total minutes spent semester 2. The total minutes for 1.0 credit at Chaparral High School was 8,280 minutes, which translates to 138 hours in 2011-12. That's how much a student sat in a classroom to get 1 credit. If you go over to the right, we did the exact same calculation, although we asked them to put, okay, now you have this new schedule, so go across all the weeks of the year, running this kid through 1 period all across the year. And we found out that Chaparral High School, it's 128.43 hours to get 1 credit. So they lost 9.57 hours of instructional time. Okay? So when you look at the back side of that single page I gave you, this is a summary of the instructional time. It has the green boxes on it. So the first few columns are about how much instructional time at a certain school. So the time last year versus the time this year, and then the total delta is that column that has the red numbers in parentheses. And you can see across all of our high schools, the data will show you this as well, we lost the average of 10.26 hours in our schools of instructional time. When you look at the homeroom access discussion, you've heard students talk about that. We wanted more advisory time, more opportunity to meet with teachers one-on-one in those advisory times. Some of our schools made choices not to run that this past year. They chose to put that in instructional time. So there was a loss there. I thought the next one was really interesting when we talk about lunch, okay? And you'll see there's 3 green boxes in there. That shows that there was actually a gain in those times at those buildings. The bigger story is when you look at those specific buildings, those are 3 of our largest high schools in Douglas County. Those are also 3 of our high schools that they don't have ready access to a strip mall. Like a Highlands Ranch or a Thunder Ridge, there's a mall and restaurants and things right there. So this shows that our principals were looking out for student safety because they chose to put a few more minutes in the lunchtime, knowing that would sacrifice some instructional time, but it would ensure safety for students. And then finally on the far right is passing time. And obviously that was going to go down in each one of our buildings as a result of having 4 periods instead of 7. You don't have as many passing times. There was one school where passing time increased. We deduced that that happened because there's 2 campuses at Douglas County High School. So we wanted to make sure kids could pass in time from the south building to the north building. So, to recap the instructional time for 1 credit, there was a decrease by 10.26 hours for 1.0 credit. We did not include Castle View High School in any of this data collection because they're running the exact same schedule this year that they ran last year. But I will tell you that they have approximately 118 hours per 1.0 credit. So if you think 118 and then you look at those numbers for all of our other schools, they're all coming closer to being in line. Now, I know one of you probably wants to bring up the question about the Board of Education policy that says 120 hours for 1.0 credit. That 118 at Castleview does not include the standardized testing, which we have included in the past. So there's kids taking TCAP, ACT, plan. That counts in instructional time when you're sending it down to CDE, but it doesn't count. We didn't count it on this time. That time's accounted for in the calendar, but there was no time blocked out in the calendar. Does that make sense? Okay. So the next thing that I asked Steve Johnson to do is take a look at 3 other variables that we think are important about high school education to get a broader picture of not just the instructional time and the teacher loads, but everything else that affects students. So I'd like to introduce Steve Johnson for this next portion.
All right, thanks, Dan. Thanks for summarizing all that, those piles of spreadsheets that you had too. A lot of data, and it took us a long time. I want to acknowledge my assistant, Cindy Jones, who really helped me kind of collapse some of this, and I've only got 3 slides to share with you all. Well, minutes, teacher loads, class sizes, all important. What I wanted to look at was what's the impact on students? Do we notice anything with discipline, attendance, and grades? And so we just looked at freshmen. We'll do a further study when the year is over around sophomores, juniors, and seniors, but we wanted to look at freshmen. That's a group that tends to have trouble with transition anyway. So we just kept this to freshmen. And what we did is we looked at this last semester for grades. The first semester of this year, we haven't completed grades, so we'll have to do that this summer, and we'll get that to you. And I compared that to the previous 2 years or the previous 4 semesters and averaged those. So interesting data. It was good to see. In 6 of our 8 high schools, again, we excluded Castleview because they ran the same schedule. So we wanted to see what happened on the schedules that were changed. 6 of the 8 high schools reduced their out-of-school suspensions. 2 of the 8 schools increased suspensions compared to the previous school year, not necessarily both years. But overall, out-of-school suspensions were reduced by 6.5 compared to the 10-11 and 11-12 school years averaged together. Okay, so I just looked at out-of-school suspension expulsion data and the way it's reported and deferred and how many are recommended and things like that. We need to clean up some of the data and how it's reported so it's consistent at each school. That's another thing that was good about doing this little study. But overall, some good news about discipline and freshmen. Attendance. Again, we looked at 8 schools, and I averaged the information on attendance from the 10-11 and 11-12 school years, those 4 semesters. We looked at excused, unexcused absences, and we looked at tardies. And then we compared that average of those 4 semesters to first semester of this current school year. In 7 of 8 high schools that we looked at, we had a decrease in excused absences, an average of 161 days, and those are full day absences by students. So where they called in or they didn't call in the case of an unexcused absence, okay? But these are full days. 5 of 8 schools had a decrease in unexcused absences, an average in those 5 schools of 15 days of a decrease. And then in 7 of the 8 schools, a decreased number of tardies, an average of 320 in that reduction. So a couple of things here. On the tardies, one of the just structural reasons for the decrease in the number of tardies is that there are fewer periods each week. So we've given our students fewer opportunities to be tardy. Okay, so that's accounting for some of that. On a block day, you've only got 4 opportunities to be tardy. In the old schedule, you had 7. So, all in all, I think this is a positive trend in these schools. I don't think it's monumental, but it is a positive change. All right, we'll have to look at grade data here at the end of this semester, so we've got it for all, for the full year. in both semesters. But again, 8 schools, just the freshmen. I took the 10-11 year, the 11-12 year, averaged those 4 semesters, and compared it to first semester of this current school year. And what we looked at, and I guess I just cheated here, I looked at Fs and Ds because I only had to look at 2 categories rather than A, Bs, and Cs. Okay, but a reduction in Fs obviously means an increase in the other grades. So, hope that's obvious. 4 schools showed an increased number of Fs, but the average of those increases was about 0.6%. So really pretty minimal. And I had to do this calculation both with the Excel spreadsheet and by hand to make sure that I wasn't messing some up. These are so close, I was amazed. 4 schools showed decreased Fs of just a little bit over 0.6% when you averaged all those 4 schools together. 2 schools showed an increase in the numbers of Ds and Fs, the percentage of Ds and Fs, but when you average those 2 schools, it was an increase of just over 1%, and the other 6 schools showed a decrease in the percentage of Ds and Fs by freshmen. But again, a pretty small number, under 1%. So the new schedule, the 6 of 8 schedule, didn't result in this huge boom in terms of grades first semester. But on the other hand, it didn't show any real detrimental effect either. So I really think this is a wash. These things vary anyway. I don't think these are statistically significant. So that's a summary of lots and lots of data from the registrar's office. But really, the good news there is that the 6 of 8 schedule does not seem to have had a detrimental effect around discipline or attendance or grades for our freshman classes. And, we do need to collect some more data, so one of the things we'll do going forward is get the second semester data and include that in the calculations. And those will be available here real soon. We also need a broader analysis of grades 10 through 12, and so we need to look at that as well. We'll have AP results coming this summer, and it'll be interesting to see how our pass rates compare to past years with the change of schedule, and of course TCAP and ACT, among other things. One last thing I'll mention here is that all of our schools have at least considered adjustments in the 6 of 8 schedule, the Bell schedule, how many minutes are per class, and how many advisement periods they have, whether they have an advisement period at all. So just a quick report from 3 schools. I talked to Jerry Goings here in recent days, and they really considered moving their 8-period day, which they've had on Monday this year, and they thought about moving it to a different day, Friday, for example, where a number of other schools have it. Jerry does a great job of this, with this, as do all of our principals, but after discussion with staff and then putting it up for a vote, it was 50-50, they're leaving it on Monday. They're not going to make any other tweaks. An interesting note that Jerry shared is their English classes right now, he's anticipating as he's built the schedule for next year, their English classes, all 4 grades, are probably going to average 24.5 kids per class. That's great. Douglas County High School did move their 8-period day to Wednesday, and the reason they did that is a couple of faculty members did a study of which day of the week students tended to be pulled out of early, say for athletic release, to go to games and travel. They determined that Wednesday was the highest day for that kind of absence by their students. Teachers did a presentation to the class. They put it up for a vote at Douglas County High School, and it was unanimous that they moved that from Monday to Wednesday. Douglas County is also adding a second day of academic assistance. That'll be a second period when students can get help from teachers. Again, teacher discussion and great support for that change at Douglas County High School. And then just to give you a contrasting example, Legend High School, I think is saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They're doing a rolling AB block. Every day is a block. You know, 4 periods 1 through 4 one day, 5 through 8 the next, 1 through 4 again. Okay, back and forth, no 8-period day. And they're just standing pat. So, good news.
So to kind of bring us back to
November of 2011. You know, we set out, we had a very tight timeline and goal that we wanted to accomplish, knowing that we had to respond to some pretty volatile situations. Lowering class sizes, preserving opportunities, sufficient planning time, and being able to respond with the 4 big keys. We're going to continue to use these as we move forward. You know, Steve talked a little bit about what high school principals are doing with their staffs around responding to concerns as people bring them forward. We welcome those concerns because we think it's critical that our high school principals have an opportunity to respond to actual data and make a decision in their building that's the best for their building, with input from their staff, with input from their community, with input from their students. And very clearly you can see that each one of our buildings has taken this challenge a different way and responded to their community and respected those different viewpoints, but have put into place something that's been very, very beneficial to our students with little or no impact to others. And so we're very proud of the work that our schools have done. I mean, you know, we stood up here last time we had a board meeting and talked about achievement and academic performance in our classrooms. Very proud of that. And we're going to continue that. But we're very proud of this as well, because we know that this has had a direct impact on students. You've had students talk about the difference it's made for them in classrooms where they're no longer anonymous or having to sit on the floor because we don't have enough furniture, we don't have enough books. We're able to respond to those things now. So every one of our buildings will continue to use these as a filter moving forward. If at some point we have enough money that a building decides they want to go back to a different schedule or change the schedule, they're going to have to answer these questions for us. Are you going to be able to maintain the lower class size that we are currently affording right now? Are you going to be able to preserve opportunities for students? What does it do for prep time for teachers? Because that's critical. And then the last one, when and if something changes and we have to respond to a significant budget issue, are you going to be able to do that through the current schedule that you have, rather than walking that tight line? So we would like to open it for questions now if you have any.
Director.
First of all, thank you very much for the presentation. I think it, to be fair, just to make sure everyone knows, conceptually a year ago you predicted this. You said this would be the right thing to do even if we didn't have the budget constraints we had. And the empirical data you presented tonight have confirmed that your judgment ex ante was the right judgment. And I want to make sure you're credited for that and Steve is credited for that. I do think that we should continue to monitor this, obviously. And one thought is also look at you know, A's and B's, because I think you're going to find there some maybe more changes. And one of the things that I think that this sort of unsung feature, if you will, of this is student preparation time. And this is, by the way, what these students are going to encounter in college, right? They're not going to have Henry Ford assembly line, ring the bell, go to the next class. They're going to have downtime between classes. They're going to have to use that time productively and know how to do that responsibly and diligently. And I can tell you my daughter's graduating tomorrow from Mountain Vista High School, and she's benefited from leadership of then Principal Johnson, now Principal Weaver, and an amazing group of teachers at Mountain Vista who have made her life now coming in college possible. And she used that time to prepare for classes and to hone in on the details of the homework from the previous night and prepare for classes. So there's a student preparation aspect to this that I think we don't want to lose and we should try to capture. The other thought I had too is, as I have visited schools, particularly elementary schools, you see that there's an architectural, if you will, physical plant incompatibility between what's happening pedagogically and the structure of our facilities. You would see teachers in the hall with smaller groups of students based on skill levels, doing some teaching on the floor because we've got these square classrooms that we've been building for years and as part of the Henry Ford assembly line model, in the sort of pre-industrial model and not the 21st century model. And one thought I have is, as you think about, and as our schools think about how best to capture this concept of student preparation, is to design facilities that provide a space for that. Carols, places where students can individually work in quiet and not be distracted by other things, and a place to go that's obviously secure and doesn't create other problems. But I do think that this concept of students learning how to budget and manage time in ways that are part of the collegiate experience and also using that time to improve their academic performance. That's certainly been borne out in the Richardson household, and I'm curious if it is something that has been witnessed by other parents and other families. But I do want to commend you. I am so proud of this. You have done amazing things in so many ways. This district has done amazing things with limited resources. You've achieved a really outstanding adaptation, and you called it. You called it early, and the data have confirmed it. Congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate those comments. I did want to add that out at Thunder Ridge High School, they're doing exactly what you were talking about. They're transforming their library into a learning commons that has small group areas, larger group areas, individual study areas, complete wireless access, so students in their free time can go in there and access whatever they need to continue their studies in a safe and secure environment. So they've embraced that, and they will have something off the ground next fall that will be that model that you're talking about. But thank you for the kind words, we appreciate that.
Just want to make sure that Bill Moffett heard that. Yeah, about space. Yeah, thanks very much.
Again, I'd like to echo Director Richardson's remarks. Good job, good data, and what I like is that we're taking the feedback and learning from it too and continuing to improve. This is a great analysis of what happened at the high school, and of course we had the big schedule change, and that's what we really want to look at the impacts. Have we begun to examine anything that might be going on size-wise? I know we've added resource dollars into the middle schools, but that's another area where I know we've had some bigger numbers. What types of things might we look forward to then?
You know, a little early forecasting on the TEL survey, that was one of the pressure points at the middle level was this class sizes, and I think we need to continue to address that working with our middle school principals. So we don't have a definitive answer for you yet, but I know that that's on the horizon based on the information we got. That's the next big place we need to go. And of course, we still have to go back into the elementary schools and address the needs there. I mean, 5 straight years of making some significant cuts, put a big dent in the programming that we can offer at those buildings as well. So we'll continue as money goes back into the system to look and see how we can continue to drive this down. But you're absolutely right. In the TEL survey, there's a couple of questions that we can pull out that were specific to middle schools we need to address.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Great, thanks. Next, I'd like to introduce Brian Caesar, Chief Human Resources Officer. He has several members of his team here, nearly the whole department. And they'd like to provide an update on the hiring. This is the hiring season on education. And so, Brian, you're in your team rep.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to say great job, Dan, Steve, and everybody involved with impressive numbers and great thing for students. So I've been before you before to give you an HR update, and I thought it's only fair tonight to present you with a number of presenters because they're the ones that carry a bulk of the workload throughout HR and throughout the year. So I'd like to introduce them.
Hi, I'm Debbie McGee, Director of Human Resources. I'm Katie Shortsleeve, Director of Human Resources. I joined the district about a year ago. I have 14 years of HR background.
Shelley Taylor, I'm the HR Information Systems Manager. I joined HR from the IT department. I've been in the district for 7 years now and have over 17 years experience in IT.
Hi, I'm Mary Chesla. I'm the Director of Compensation. I've been with the district about 15 years, the last 8 of them in HR, and I am a certified compensation professional.
Good evening, I'm Robin Green. I'm the HR Director of Employee Relations. I joined the district back in September, so about 9 months now. Prior to the district, I have 20 years of experience in employment law and HR professional.
Debbie, you want to say how many years you have? You want to skip over that.
I actually have 30 years in Douglas County Schools, and I hold my Senior Professional Human Resources certification.
Great team. I'm really proud of the team, and we do a lot of work. So just a brief overview on some of the highlights that we've accomplished this year. We've implemented a new recruiting system. It's called Taleo, where we can now track information on where we hire recruits, where we source from, how long does it take to go through the process, offer to acceptance ratios, just about all the data that we can gather to help direct our sources and direct our funds in the appropriate way. We also put in a new sub-software, which is called ASOP. Now, ASOP is one of these systems that allows us to look at the performance through how the sub performs in the position. So we have a new thing called a star rating on the performance on the sub, and we can look at how well they're doing in the classroom. And also for the first year coming up, we're going to be doing some PD for subs, which is usually unheard of. We are halfway through the second year. We've completely, first year of the market-based pay all of last year. We went through one full hiring season. We're halfway through the second. And what we're finding, and what you'll see later on in the presentation, is what we saw with good news last year is repeated again this year. And finally, we have a new HR app, thanks to Cinnamon and the team and others, and Shelley. And one of the components on that app is a place for employee discounts. So as an employee, you can click on the app and see a list of about 100 or so places that offer Douglas County school employees a discount.
Okay, great. So first thing we're going to talk about is turnover. There seems to be a little concern about the turnover in the district, so we wanted to address that with you. I'm going to talk about license turnover, and then Debbie will cover classified turnover. So first, just real high level, wanted to give you kind of a year-over-year perspective on the license turnover. So for the past 4 years, we have the data. And the good news is the data actually looks pretty favorable, looks pretty positive. Just a couple points about the data. So for this current year, 12-13, that's year-to-date. And it's actual real time. It's like as of this afternoon, Shelley ran the numbers, so that's real-time data. But we're not done the school year, so that number may change a little bit, but it's pretty close. And also, how do we calculate this turnover? Just want to make sure you understand how we came up with the turnover rates here. So we basically take the number of separations, these are in licensed teacher separations during the school year, divided by the average number of teachers during that school year. So that's how we arrive at the turnover rates year over year. So again, I mean, looking at the trend, pretty stable, pretty steady. I can tell you from my experience, I think it's actually pretty positive that it's only gone up a couple of points in the last couple of years. Anytime an organization goes through significant change, it's expected that you're going to have an increase in turnover. So I think this is pretty favorable. So next, let's drill down a little bit to the reasons why people are leaving. Why are teachers leaving the district? So I think this is really important to drill down a little bit and look at the reasons. So here we just have this year compared to last year. And so you can see under the retirement, the significant increase. The numbers almost doubled, in large part due to the ESS, the Extended Severance Service Program. So with that program in place, the number of retirements for this year almost doubled. So that's pretty significant. Under the resignations, there's actually been a decrease in the number of voluntary resignations. And I think another good point to note is that the number of resignations for teachers leaving for new jobs, for other employment, was only about 18% of that total. And then on the involuntary, so the involuntary encompasses dismissals, non-renewals, downsizing, and that number this year went up slightly, in large part due to the displacements from the previous year. So for those teachers who were displaced, who did not secure new employment, now they're being downsized this year. And so that's why that number went up slightly for this year. And then finally, I just wanted to show you some benchmarking data. I think it's really important to look at other districts within the Front Range, just to see how we compare to other districts. Because, with turnover, there's always going to be some turnover. And as a district, we have to kind of decide how much turnover is acceptable to us. Because there's good and there's bad turnover, right? Not all turnover is bad. Sometimes it can be good. So if you have a low-performing employee who leaves and is replaced with a high performer, that's actually a good thing. So we want to look at other districts just so we can kind of compare ourselves and benchmark ourselves. So as you can see, I think we're well within the kind of the normal range for turnover compared to, we have DPS, we have Littleton, Aurora, Cherry Creek, and Boulder Valley. And so this graph shows you the turnover rates for the past 4 years. What I do want to point out is this data is from the CDE. And so CDE, they calculate their turnover slightly different. They're a little bit on a lag. And they also include all separations. Our data, we actually pull out the 1 year only or the temporary contracts.
because we know that those contracts are going to end. So we don't include those. So that's why our numbers were about 8, 8, 10, 10, and then the numbers from CDE are slightly higher, but they kind of correlate in terms of the increase. So for us, it was about 10, 11, and it's gone up slightly this year. But they basically, their turnover is, they take a snapshot as of December 1st, and then they divide it by the number of total employees for the year prior. So the numbers, it's not a complete, apples to apples comparison, it's slightly different. But I think the important thing to take away from this is that our turnover rates are pretty much within the normal range compared to other districts.
Yeah,
you're shaking your head.
Yeah.
Director Richardson.
Yeah, I just on that previous, and I think this is important. So there, obviously, in the dark blue bar, the most recent data shows a slight uptick in our results, still within the sort of range of normalcy for our peer districts. Isn't it true, though, that one of the drivers for that uptick is that we have eliminated, as you alluded to earlier, or we're phasing out this program of paying teachers to leave?
Right.
We're no longer paying teachers $40,000 to retire and then receive a PIRA check in the next week. We're saying we'd rather use those resources for all teachers and for the classroom. And so some teachers who are near retirement have decided they want to retire, accelerate their retirement in order to benefit from that phased out feature. So it would stand to reason that in years to come, we would see a lower than average
Right, I think we'll
retirement.
stabilize after
Right.
the ESS.
So, and I don't think many other districts even have, well, some do, not without controversy apparently, but most of the other districts, do other districts have an ESS type feature, but none of them is phasing it out?
I think Leader probably would know. I think most have that type of program, and I think I read that there were a couple of districts that were looking at phasing it out.
Phasing them out.
Yeah,
I
just
know
because of
one,
the cost.
Adams 12 is one
Yes,
of
looking
them,
at
been in the news a little bit. So, but in any event, because we're doing that, there's obviously an incentive to accelerate retirement, and so the numbers you had in the previous chart show an uptick in the numbers retired.
Almost double.
Yeah, not surprising.
Thank you.
Debbie?
Classified?
Now what you see is a classified turnover rate over the last 4 years, and you can see that classified has reduced the turnover rate from 21% down to currently 16%. One of the areas that we've seen some reduction in that turnover rate is transportation. We previously would hire potential drivers, train them 2 to 3 weeks, and then they would gain their CDL license. And then they would leave and work for the private sector. So we changed that. We said, we're going to train you and provide you with that CDL license, but in exchange you need to stay with us at least a year, or you will pay us, we'll charge you for that training which we provided. So that has reduced our turnover rate in the transportation area. Another program we've put in place this year is a rigorous evaluation tool for our classified employees. And we're excited, like the licensed staff, to have a pay differential, so we recognize high-performing employees. Another program that we will reinstate in the 13-14 school year is our classified mentor program. We'll have a mentor at each of our sites. This will provide leadership and compensation opportunities for our high-performing employees. It will also provide one-on-one induction for our new hires for their first year of employment. We feel that will help with our turnover as well. And then the next slide drills down to the reasons for those separations. And as you can see over the last 2 years, so we have 80% of our employees, it's voluntary resignation. And out of that 80%, only 15% of those have left the district to work in other organizations. Most of them are for personal reasons. And then we have the retirement. We have the ESS program as well that's phased out. So we see about 15 of those 31 are with the ESS right now. And then the involuntary resignations, which for classified is the downsizing dismissals, but also those who physically cannot perform the job any longer. So that's an additional component with classified. Okay?
When I introduced myself, I failed to mention that I also manage the substitute teaching office, which is why I'm going to talk about the substitute teaching office. We're very proud of the growth in our pool of qualified subs. You can see the 4-year growth rates of the size of the sub pool growing from 567 4 years ago to 860. And we have about 90 subs in the pipeline to be hired just in the next couple of weeks to increase the size of the pool. So we're very proud of that. Another thing we did this year is implemented a rating system for subs so that stellar subs, in fact we call it the star rating, can earn an additional $10 to $30 a day for gaining a star rating that meets a certain level. And we're proud to say that we have 21% of our subs who are earning this performance bonus. So performance isn't just about our regular employees, it's also about our subs. The next graph or chart is the licensed sub pay in Front Range districts, just to show you that our rates, as proposed for next year, are competitive with our neighboring districts. In fact, in some cases, our starting rates are higher. We're not going to be the highest in every single case, but subs who stick with us and work as super subs, getting to 60 or 90 or more days, can earn more than in the other districts. So we're quite proud of that. We think it's attracting subs to our district. Questions? We'll talk about market-based pay now. I'm wearing the compensation hat. So we have some statistics for this year, and this is year-to-date data. Not as current as theirs, this is from yesterday, not today. So we have made offers to 164 brand new teachers to the district. This does not include transfers. This is external applicants being hired. We have only 5 declines. We think that's pretty impressive. Teachers want to come here. So let's talk about the salaries we're offering, and this shows how our market-based pay is working. The spread from the step and lane schedule to the market-based pay schedule is $25,750. This is from the number that's below the step and lane to above the step and lane. How does that work out for under what the step and lane would be and over? You can see the numbers. $1,640 is the average difference for teachers when they're under the old step and lane schedule. And we are attracting teachers in those higher bands, the hard to fill. We're paying an average of $3,671 higher than the step and lane. We're attracting them. They like to come here. So how many do we have under the step and lane? You can see 72. Again, the 92 for over the step and lane shows us that we are attracting those higher level band teachers, the special ed, the science, the math. So that's exciting. Our average experience is 4.6 years. That's as of right now. The season is not done. It's very close to what last year's was. And we are proud to say that we've hired 25 teachers who have 10 or more years of experience. Questions?
Just a clarification on that previous slide. So the $25,750 is the total aggregate difference for all 164.
It's the outliers. So we hired somebody below and over. It's the 2 extremes. It's a total range.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Richardson.
I do think it's worth pointing out too that this market-based pay concept in tandem with our pay performance model has a particularly powerful signal to those teachers out there in hard to fill positions who know they're good and think they will do well in a district that differentiates according to performance. So, as the numbers recently indicated, our top performers are getting over 9% of a salary increase. Combine that with a market-based pay concept, and we're attracting people in hard to fill positions that believe they will do well in a system that evaluates and rewards highly effective teachers. That suggests to me, and the data will we'll look for the data to confirm this in successive years, that we're going to be getting, some all-star people to teach our kids. And all of the information we have about 50 years of K-12 education is that the quality of the teacher is the #1 decisive determinant of academic achievement in our kids. I read a study recently out of Harvard that suggests that when you have a highly effective teacher in front of a class, the result for that student is $57,000 per year in improved income over their lifetime. That, first of all, says we're paying teachers too little because they're much more valuable than this culture realizes. But second, we've got to reward really great teachers who make a difference like that. So this is one hand clapping. With the other hand of paper performance, it suggests that we're going to be getting some really, really excellent teachers to join an already outstanding group of human beings. And that's only good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Mendoza, and then Director Williams will follow that.
Thank you for the great presentation. For the folks that have accepted to come to the district, do you ask them if the pay for performance is a factor in their reason to accept?
We have not. The hiring is done at the school sites, so that's not something we've had the ability to do in HR, but it's certainly worth polling them at some point in the near future.
Something may point out that I mentioned in our last meeting in my kid's school at Frontier Valley, we had a position open and had 181 applicants for one position, and had the teacher of the year in a school district in Georgia with over 100,000 students apply for the job, and she did not even get it. We hired an internal candidate who was better than her. And when you look at us making 169 offers and 164 of those accept, that is incredibly off the charts high percentage of people that we go out and are able to get and attract. And if I might point out something earlier in the slides too, anytime you're a part of an organization and it goes through a strategic direction change, you have people that don't want to go with the program. And there are those that feel that we as the Board of Education should absolutely freak out that there are some people that don't believe in these programs that we're implementing. And that turnover is healthy. But even in that example, we're lower than everyone else. I think that the simple answer and simple conclusion is that we are an absolute magnet for terrific teachers, and we're an absolute magnet for keeping great teachers. And not just those who oppose us say it's a great place to come and learn and then move on somewhere else. That's absolutely not the case. This is a terrific place to work, and the Board of Education supports our teachers and loves our teachers. And I can tell you, as each one of my students are advancing and we're learning about who's going to have what teacher next year, every year, it is such a wonderful position to be in when you're not going, oh, I please hope they don't get this teacher. Because we just, with all of my children, my growth of children in neighborhood schools, we just don't have that. We love every single one of them and have had such a great experience. And I'm still floored the fact that out of all of those offers, only 5 to 5. That is incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just be curious on following up on that, if we could get benchmarking data from our peer districts in terms of their acceptance and decline rate. I would be very surprised if some of our districts could match that. If those data are available from our colleagues in other districts, I would be interested in seeing that.
We will find out. Thank you.
The next thing that we wanted to talk about tonight is our posting process. We wanted to address our website, our postings, and some of the things that you would see on there in regards to traffic. The first point to make is that because we do school-based hiring, to the question asked earlier, our schools are very different. We allow choice for our students. We want to make sure that our teachers enjoy those same opportunities to find a school that resonates with the style of teaching that they find that they appreciate the most, so that we have those synergies between the students' passions and the teachers' passions. So because of that, we focus very much on decentralized school-based hiring. Our principals are doing the interviews and making the selection decisions along with the teachers in their school. It's very difficult for us versus other districts to go to a job fair and say, this is the one right candidate for any school in Douglas County. I think we respect the fact that the principals will all judge really what fits within their school best and their culture. So because of that, we do post. It drives up the number of postings in our district. We can't post for a first-grade teacher across the district. We would have to post it separate for each school. And we've provided opportunities for the schools to differentiate their postings, even among, say, first grade or kindergarten positions, so that it really resonates their school's focus. So that's unique to us. We also have internal transfer policies that support, again, the choice, so that teachers can gravitate towards schools. It's not just once you're hired into one school in Douglas County, you'll spend your entire career there. You may change from school to school strategically with what fits, kind of with what you find to be your passion or your match in teaching. So we enjoy that. We post more positions because of that to allow that internal movement, and we make sure that the schools have the hiring decisions in their hands. That in turn does drive up our number of postings, just from an artificial perspective on the website. We also have the ability, and it is unique to our new system, to post for positions internally. So some of these are pushes and some of these are pulls, but we have the ability that we can post a position for internal candidates. What that means is that external candidates aren't applying for 500 jobs and never getting a phone call. They're really only seeing the ones where we have vetted our internals, found which ones are a match, and found where our true external vacancies lie. So our schools have that flexibility and that opportunity. One of the things that does to our numbers is it drives down our applicant per posting, because we're not just showing them to all the externals, letting them apply, and then kind of pulling the rug out from underneath. Another opportunity that we have here in Douglas County is dual consideration. Let's say that one school is hiring 2 English teachers. They can post the position and hire to fill both positions from that one slate of candidates. That's something that we find just increases the time to fill, the efficiency of the position. It also really allows us to capture some of those second-rate candidates. In the old system, if you had 2 great candidates on one posting and the one never applied for the second job because they didn't see it or thought they were already coming for that interview, we would miss that candidate. So we think that some of those things are improving our ability to hire effectively. The last impact we have is our salary bands. Because we have our bands, we uniquely post each position. We don't post a primary teacher or an intermediate teacher or a middle school teacher. We want those bands to reflect the differences in the job pay. So we post those all individually. Again, it drives up our number of postings because each one is unique. So just kind of explaining some of those pushes and pulls. If you were to compare one district's postings to another district posting, it's not apples to oranges for the following policy reasons. Sourcing efforts. We've taken a lot of efforts with our sourcing this year to do it strategically and to do it a little bit differently. We've revised our recruiting brochures so that they truly reflect the goals of our district. We want them to really explain to candidates. And when we go to job fairs, we do get people that walk up with a list of questions. What's pay for performance? How does this work? How do you do that? How do you do that? And it is very exciting. We do a lot of small groups, and pull them all in together, and we talk about what we're doing in the district, and they'll each ask questions, and now they're asking each other questions, and they kind of feed off it. So you do get that excitement. When we go to our job fairs for our license, we do find both brand new teachers and experienced teachers. I will say typically the experienced teachers, they've got the list of questions. And I do think they're making that value judgment. Is this the place for me? Based on what I've heard, what I know, what I'm looking for. So it's good when we see the staffing numbers that we are able to hire experienced teachers, because they're definitely coming up with a whole list of quick fire questions. So Douglas County is known for kind of having a line down and around the corner at job fair, so it's pretty exciting. For our classified employees, we're also doing a lot to recruit better. The classified ranks are, just as important. We spend a lot of money in that realm, and they in fact touch our students every day. We want to make sure that we're using that money efficiently and effectively and attracting the best candidates in all areas. We're looking for talent through broader means. In the past, we've posted on the district website, we've received some great applicants. But where else can we truly reach that population? So whether it's bus drivers or nutritional services or health assistants or nurses, psychologists, where do we post to truly get the best in that profession that are gonna fit in our schools? So we're looking at a lot of new ones, a lot of new job boards, monsters, professional or trade associations to attract those candidates. Here's an example of our licensed postings. So you can see year over year, our licensed postings have gone up. Okay? Currently, we're at a year to date. This runs calendar year. So we're about 5 months in. We have wrapped up a good chunk of our licensed hiring, but there still will be more that come in over the summer, just as they did last year. We're 565 postings in. If you look at our average apps, they've gone up continually every year. There's an asterisk on this year. Because again, if we look, we have 163 postings that were posted for internal applicants only. They receive about a quarter or 25% of the applicants because again, they're not broadcasted to that big external pool. So if I extrapolate those numbers out, if we had posted the internal 163 external simultaneously, we would anticipate another 21,000 external applications to be added to that number, which would drive our average apps up to 80. So we are enjoying a good number of applicants to the district. It's a very healthy number. We've put in place screening tools. First of all, the biggest screening tool is posting it internal only first, right, and seeing if you have viable candidates. We do though through Taleo have other screening tools so that as I do my good job and attract tons of applicants, the principals don't have to do more work just screening more resumes. We have more tools that they can sort through those and sift through those quickly and spend more time on the top candidates. Okay, next to Shelley. Any questions on that one? Okay.
So we've already kind of talked about Taleo and ASOP to some extent. Katie just kind of mentioned some of the things with Taleo in terms of our benefits from that system in terms of our recruiting and being able to really sift through all those candidates quickly and get to that list of candidates that are really good candidates and focus on which one is the best fit for my school. And same kind of thing with ASOP in terms of benefits with our new HR systems is our increased ability to track and monitor our subs and see how they are doing in performance and things like that. So those have both been really good systems to have in place, to get in place, that have improved processes for us in terms of just streamlining what we do and how we do it, so that we can take that extra time and really focus on, you know, the more important things, like getting the right teacher in the right school, in the right classroom, or the right classified staff in their area and things like that. So that kind of gives you an idea of kind of our update of how we're doing in terms of our HR systems. There's a lot of other things going on at the same time, but I do want to kind of touch on a few things that are coming in terms of where we're going from here. Now that we have at least a couple systems in place where we have much better reporting capability, we're really looking at dashboard type planning, where we've talked all evening about data-driven decision making and being able to have access to that information, whether it's scheduling information at the high schools or some of the HR information, how we're posting, what we're posting, who we're attracting. And what we would like to be able to do with our plans in terms of dashboard information is get this same kind of data to the people that are making the decisions in terms of hiring our teachers, hiring people in our different departments, so our principals, our department leads, people like that, to be able to look at turnover within their particular area or absenteeism in their particular area so that they can make those data-driven decisions. In order to do that effectively, we also know that we really have to look at streamlining the processes that we do have in place, because the data isn't going to be very relevant if it isn't accurate and if it isn't timely. So we're really looking at how we can focus on All of those processes, at least from an HR standpoint, to try and streamline it, make it better, easier for schools, make it less administrative type overhead for us, and ensure that data accuracy. Because at the end of the day, where we really want to get to and what our goal is to be able to follow the employee life cycle. So right from the time that we hire the employee through their entire career here, we want to be able to say, here's a great teacher and here's how they got there, whether it's their career path, whether it's evaluation cycles, to be able to follow that kind of information so that we can then use that information to target how do we get those teachers into that, or new teachers into that place, all the way back to where do we hire our best teachers from? And we'll target those areas and take more time and resources and target them at those areas where we know that they've been most effective so that we can, improve either our teachers' effectiveness where they are today or make sure that we get the right hires.
So thanks, that's an overview from the team, and we're here to answer any questions for you.
Thank you. Do you actively recruit outside Colorado and also say like TFA graduates who have done their service? Do you actively recruit in kind of specialized populations?
We do actively recruit. We recruit nationally, and obviously the positions that are more apt for national recruiting are some of the harder to fill positions and principals, obviously. And we've done really successful recruiting nationally and targeting some areas. But I think the nice thing, as Shelley mentioned, is some of the tools that we have, we'll be able to track going forward what's the most big bang for the buck on the resources. So if we go to certain areas, where are we going to get those better candidates? Where have we recruited in the past where we maybe didn't fare so well that we can maybe stop and eliminate now that we have the data?
One interesting point to that, we went through our recruiting materials and added Colorado to them. Because it wasn't on anything before, we kept having applicants go to, there's Douglas County schools in Nevada and one in Georgia. And yeah, so that caused some confusion. So we got people's attention that they were going the wrong places. So, trying just to tailor that to get, this is a very desirable area, a great community to live in. I think people recognize that. So we want to make sure they know those opportunities are available.
Any other questions? Director Richardson.
Say I've actually gotten complaints from parents in Douglas County, Georgia.
They also have Megan on their board.
I think this is just huge. I think this is an absolutely, first of all, great team, great group of people, great experience. And I think what you're doing is so consequential for our district. This is really kind of a fulcrum in terms of human resource development in our district. And I don't think there are very few districts in the country are doing what you're doing. And it's absolutely remarkable that we're able to do this and attract talent. I think one of the most consequential social scientists of the last century was a fellow named James Q. Wilson. He was an amazing observer of things, and he wrote on many things, crime, many topics. But one of the topics he explored is what motivates individual human beings and organizations, both public and private. And he concluded that there are three types of compensation: solidarity, purposive, and materials. We have done a pretty good job, I think, in K-12 education of the first two. Solidarity is you're part of a team. You enjoy collaboration. You enjoy working with the team when you come to work every day. And I think the K-12 system offers that in co-ed benefit to our professionals because they are a team and they do collaborate and they do work together. And that's a very rich part of their total compensation package. Purposive. What's more important than teaching? What's more important than preparing the next generation to take over the management of the most important economy and country in the history of the world? So they have that compensation. that we've just not done a very good job of the material part of compensation. No one here is suggesting that the only thing teachers care about or want is dollars, but it's part of the picture of motivating and attracting and keeping and retaining and encouraging and sustaining real human beings who are presented with this enormously complicated job of taking a child, a student, and transforming them and caring about them. And so what you are doing is so important to the future of the next generation in that last category, the material aspect of compensation James Q. Wilson wrote eloquently about, and I think you should be very proud. I think this is a remarkable bit of work.
And I just want to echo Craig's statement, because you're sort of the hinge upon which everything else needs to work. I mean, if you don't do your job, the job doesn't get done. The great teachers aren't in the classroom where we need them to be. So you're probably not recognized enough, so I'm glad Brian took the opportunity today to bring you in and let you make your presentation so that we can thank you.
Any other questions? I have one that I failed to ask when we were back on that. So the postings, the number of postings. Can you just mechanically go through how the number of postings isn't necessarily reflective of who's leaving, and how do those numbers interrelate and correlate?
Sure. When we put up a posting, especially if we post it internal, we could have an applicant fill that position. In turn, their position's posted. And normally it's going internal first, and they take a job, and then their position is posted. So there's definitely a domino effect to postings, especially with so many internal placements. It's a good way, I think, for teachers to kind of find something new that invigorates them or find the place they've always been waiting for. But it does cause a domino effect sometimes. So multiple postings still won't result in an external hire at times.
Thank you. Okay, without any further questions, thank you for that presentation.
Thank you.
Great, thanks HR team. There's a joke if you've never been in Brian's office. There's a whiteboard, and when he first came here, he has all this little perfect writing in these little boxes, and there were 99 things that the HR team wanted to do. And everybody thought, well, that's going to be really neat when they get all 99 things completed. The thing is, Brian erases the completed ones and adds new ones. So they can attest to this. So that's how great they really are. Finally, we have I always say this, I hope she doesn't mind, a brief presentation by our Chief Financial Officer, Bonnie Betts, on our proposed budget for 2014, which is, I think, given all the circumstances of the recent years in budgets, and also the way the state has decided to fund K-12 this year, I think this is a very good news budget. And I would like to introduce Bonnie. And a lot of this we introduced last week, so it will be a repeat with just a couple new things.
I thought this was slick and I didn't want to find out to me, so I thought and you could have worked it. But I can't work it. All right, thank you.
Hello, Mike. Can you hear me? Great. First of all, I really wanted to introduce you again to Rhonda Good. She's my budget manager, and over the last week we have spent a tremendous amount of time trying to put together this as well as the entire proposed detailed budget for you that's also attached to your board agenda item. So, and I'm very proud, as Dr. Fagan had said, to present this to you because it's just a great budget for us to be looking at for our 2013-14 school year. Okay, sorry. So, first of all budgets should be really focused on what the strategic plan and the priorities of any system are about when you're allocating our resources. So, we are focused on making sure that all of our students are prepared for anything that they might come upon in their futures. And then secondarily, that we can continue to improve the lives of all of our employees. At the same time, in the past, I've said continue to improve the district's fiscal health. Now I've changed that to maintain the district's fiscal health because we are in a very good fiscal situation right now. This is what I'm very proud to show you today. This represents a very detailed, much more detailed than has ever been created before for the proposed budget. part of our strategic plan indicates that we have commitments to our community. And one of those things is not only that we are going to create very high-quality students that are going to be solid members of our community, but also that we understand that we have obligations to the taxpayer and also obligations to inform the taxpayer of how we're spending our resources. So at this point, you tonight will approve a notice indicating that we have the proposed budget for their review. 2 years ago, we started this process of improving processes and procedures so that we could actually create a substantive document that our community can look at during this time, which is posted before it's approved on June 18th, I think. This is what is in and attached to your agenda item, and please know I'm not going to go through that, so I'll lay it in yours right now. Page one. Right. So our proposed budget, this is some of the things that we had shared last week. $13.7 million back to our neighborhood school students, $200 per student back to SBB, that's $125 of ongoing, $75 of one-time monies, $2.1 million funding high school student requests. Dan didn't mention this as he was making his high school scheduling presentation, but we have been and totally told all of our principals to please make sure that we're meeting the needs of our high school students. And wherever possible and whatever makes sense, please make sure that we're offering the classes that they need in order to get as many credits as they'd like. So part of that $2.1 million is for that, and the rest is really to fund innovation programs at many of our schools. The greatest one that we always bring up is Meadowview, where they are going into the Artful Learning instructional program. $9.4 million to our charter school students. Know that our proposed budget includes all the activity that's passed from Douglas County School District through all of our charter schools. That includes $8.3 million for growth. Just a reminder that Aspen View Academy, as well as the second site for American Academy, are opening in the 2013-14 school year, and also the $1.1 million for their portion of the PPR increase. $1.2 million back to our parents. We decided to eliminate the technology fee. And then finally, $15.7 million to our employees. On average, 5.2% increase, compensation increase, 2% ongoing average salary increase. Brian and his team have shared with you what average means across our population. In addition, 2% average one-time pay, that's to be paid in September. Para increase paid by the district. We have a 0.9% increase we're expecting over the next 3 years. We are absorbing that cost. And then the medical benefit increase paid by the district as well for all of our benefits eligible employees, employee only, as opposed to the increase has been passed on to the dependent coverage. So how are we doing this? Well, part of the reason is because we've gotten good news from the state of Colorado. So first of all, they're putting $210 million back into K-12 education throughout the state. That means about $178 per pupil increase. For us, we're at $165. We're still one of the lowest funded school districts in the state. So that 2.7% increase that's applied to a smaller base means a little bit less for us, $165 per student. So the total average PPR across the state of Colorado is $6,652 per pupil. The state did approve some incremental decrease in the state stabilization factor, or the negative factor as it's termed. So we dropped from 16.1% down to 15.5%. In addition, we have ongoing or realized savings within our budget. So what I wanted to do is show you all of the various ways in which we have been able to fund this great news for our school system. Student growth, we're expecting that $8.3 million to go with the growth of our students, about 1,300 students. Increase in PPR of $165, that's a total of 10.1. Special education categorical revenue, that was part of what the legislature approved, and I believe it's still sitting on the governor's desk. He has not quite signed off on that?
He signed off today.
He signed off today, great. That's part of that package, so it's outside of the School Finance Act formula. And then ongoing compensation, savings, salary, and benefits. So we've got savings in our benefits lines to include medical, to include other benefits that we've offered in the past, as well as salary savings. We've seen a decrease in average salary throughout the school system. So the total available ongoing resources is $28.2 million. So specifically, how are we spending that? $125 student increase to SBB, that's an ongoing commitment to all of our schools. Special education student growth, $1.5 million is going to come in. We expect increases in costs of $1.5 million. We have 1,300 new students, roughly 10% of those represent special education students, so we can expect those costs to continue to increase. 2% average salary increase for all evaluated employees. Again, last year, we made it benefits eligible before they received the pay increase, but whether you're a 0.2 or a 0.4 FTE employee, we still want the best that we can get, and you're still going to be evaluated, so it made sense that they should be eligible for these pay increases as well. Medical benefit increases 9% across the board, $1.5 million, parent increase, elimination of technology fee, and then our charter allocation, again, we are that pass-through, so that's $9.2 million. A total of $28.2 million of increases in expenses.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Can we go back to that? So the parent increases, is that discretionary? Did we have to pick that up?
The language indicates that there's a portion that's, every increase, that 0.9%, there's a portion that's attributable to the employee and a portion that's attributable to the employer. So we've adopted to, we've agreed or have
So
had
we're
the,
going to pick up
yeah, that we're going to pick up the whole
discretionary
amount.
portion that we could pass along to the employee.
Correct. So now we have one-time savings. If we have ongoing savings that we can reallocate, they will drop to the bottom line, giving us opportunities to provide one-time increases as well. So we've allocated out $75 per student, one-time SBB allocation, 2% average lump sum pay to all evaluated employees again, as well as that school innovation and funding high school student schedule requests of $2.1 million. So a total of $12.1 million. So we've talked about this before as well. It gives me an opportunity, though, to indicate that we've seen parent increases since 2011. We have absorbed those total 0.9% every single year since then. Medical, yes.
How many districts have made that? Do we know what districts are picking them up, what districts are passing along the increase in para?
I do not know.
Could you benchmark that for us?
You bet.
Thank you.
Medical insurance, the last time there was an increase in the medical insurance budget was the 10-11 school year. Every year after that, we've had increases that we have absorbed in the school system, so we have not increased that budget line since 2011. Utilities, we've continued to ramp down our budget in utilities. Right now in 2014, we're expecting $12.1 million using those savings to fund the security plan at our elementary schools. We also expect that $12.1 million, we're expecting more savings, but again, we don't want to decrease that budget line too early. However, those savings we feel will be able to go to our energy performance contract to fund that ongoing lease payment so that we can achieve greater energy savings. Give a lot of credit to our operations department and Lee Schmidt in doing that work. And then finally, special education, just showing the incremental increase. The other thing about special education, we are trying to drive the costs into our federal fund because that's totally reimbursed. So we can save everyone, the school district as well as all of our charter schools, dollars against their regular budget, offsetting expense with federal revenue. So this is our proposed general fund budget summary. That document that's attached has all of our funds in it. And I want everyone to know as you're going through those, they'll be posted out there until June 18th, so that's almost a full month away. I think the notice is going to start Thursday this week. All of our funds are totally consistent with the strategic plan, and all of them are out there for you to see. So please feel free to peruse those. We're going to send out to the FOC tomorrow the entire document so that they can take a look at that. And we will have our next FOC meeting on the 6th of June where they can go through, ask a bunch of questions on your behalf and see if there's other modifications that we'd like to make. So this is our total picture for our general fund. So 2012 audited actuals, our unassigned fund balance was actually $1 million. We did put in the commitments and restrictions, the Board of Education reserve policy of 4%. We feel that that is an assignment that we should account for. And so considering that, it's a $1 million unassigned fund balance. We are expecting in 2013 to have $740,000 left over. That means all of those one-time allocations I've already talked to you about are in the restrictions and assignments. We've already accounted for those. And then finally, going into our proposed budget for 2014, we're anticipating a $1.5 million unassigned fund balance again. And this is very consistent with what we've done since the 11-12 budget. If you remember, we decided that year not to cut nearly $12 million. We decided not to do that. Then we're at the end preparing for 2013. At that point, we were able to allocate out over $10 million additional monies of savings. And now we're still making sure that we are being committed to any savings we realize are totally allocated out to the system as soon as possible. Finally, our next steps on June 18th, we will approve and adopt the budget for all funds, the resolution, appropriation resolution, use of beginning fund balance, and interfund borrowing. All of these you will see for the 13-14 budget. And also, as we did last year, we are going to approve a final 12-13 budget. This is the second revision that we will present to you for final approval. This will document all the changes that have occurred during the year. This is something that we instituted last year and plan to continue. We also believe that this contributes greatly to our transparency and indicating to our taxpayer the monies that we are allocating out on an ongoing basis. And all of this final budget revision will be at that same level of detail as that attached proposed budget that you have on your board agenda. And that's all I have.
Director Richardson.
You know, I do think you briefly mentioned the utility savings and the purpose to which that's going in terms of enhanced security for our district, and I think in our schools, I think that's a metaphor in many ways for the broader phenomenon here of we do more with less. We took the savings from the utility. Well, let me step back. On the Saturday morning after Sandy Hook, our superintendent met with our law enforcement partners in our communities and asked, let's brainstorm, what can we do? And out of that brainstorming came innovation in terms of improving the configuration of our facilities. We'll talk about that in detail, but things are happening there. Obviously, the Marshall program that we hope to unfold, the lunch and cooperative efforts with law enforcement to encourage paperwork processing in close physical proximity to our schools. All of that was an innovation that this district, in cooperation with our fabulous partners in law enforcement, came together and fashioned like no other district in the state. No other district is doing this. No other district has figured out how to do it. And then how did we fund it? We funded it with hard work and savings from our great operations people who found economies in our utility bill. I mean, that's a metaphor for this district. We do more with less. And it's a challenge to some of our peer institutions to try to meet that kind of an approach. So you gave a few seconds of attention to that, and I wanted to make sure our parents understand that we're raising the bar for everyone in terms of the security of their children. And we're doing it in ways that are the result of hard work and efficiency. And that's a remarkable achievement, so thank you.
Director Williams.
I don't know what Enron shareholders meetings were like whenever it hit the fan, but actually I do because I served on the school board in 2008. About every meeting was doom and gloom. In my almost 6 years, that's pretty much what it's been. And you made a comment, you said we're in good financial shape. Can I just point out how special that is to hear that? Just to echo what Director Richardson said, we have done so much more with less, and you are presenting to us the efforts of so much hard work. The last meeting and this meeting, just a joy. I'll just put it that way. So thank you.
I'm glad to be the messenger.
Yes, yes. Dan McMenemy gets a lot of that too.
Thank you.
Any other board representatives? Thank you very much.
That concludes our reports. We're usually we usually have a fewer, but it's that time of year, right, where everything's kind of coming together, and so we've had a lot of reports the last 2 meetings, but we should be back on a more standard track going forward. So thank you for your attention to our work and your feedback. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Fagan, for some excellent reports tonight. Okay, moving on to the board committee and liaison reports. I'll just share from my perspective. Had the joy already of being at 2 ceremonies, beginning a week ago yesterday at the Bridges ceremony, where we saw a number of kids that have gained skills and are prepared to have meaningful, productive, enriched lives. And the expressions on their faces and their participation in their own ceremony through videotape of the accomplishments and things that they're looking forward to do is really quite touching. Great story. And then this morning, we kicked off some of the larger commencement ceremonies with Ponderosas at the Sports Authority Stadium. And I know my peers on this dais are going, and I are going to be in many of those occasions over the next week. And we certainly look forward to them. That's another one of the joyous moments, as you shared with me this morning, Director Williams, those really make the position worthwhile when you get to participate in that. So congratulations to, because we won't meet again until after they're all concluded, congratulations to all of our 2013 graduates. We're really proud of them and know that they're equipped to really succeed in the world. So we're happy about that. And moving on to committee reports. Are there any particular items anyone needs to share from the committee? I'll just share one. That last night, the Long Range Planning Committee interviewed several applicants. There was tremendous quality in the candidates, and what really stood out, and we really got a good slate that is going to go through from the subcommittees vetting to the full committee of Long Range Planning, and then they'll make a recommendation for our board to adopt at the next meeting in June. What really stood out was not only their quality and what they brought to the table, but again, this is reminiscent of a couple months ago when we had some tremendous applicants be on the board. Many people that want to be involved in this district, that is innovating and doing some great things, and know that long-range planning is an essential part of managing the right resources the right way and doing more with less, as Director Richardson said. And I also want to share one, I'm going to just pass along another kudos. Several candidates said they were really impressed with the communication in this district. They were hearing more and understanding a lot more, and that in fact is what sparked their interest in trying to give back in a meaningful way in this district. So hats off to communications. Like I said, at least 4 or 5 of the applicants brought that single point up. So we'll move to the public comment, and that means we have something to read. During the public comment portion of the meeting, members of the public may address the Board of Education on any item on the meeting's agenda. Speakers must complete a public comment form online and submit it electronically to the Board of Education Secretary prior to 3 p.m. on the day of a regular scheduled board meeting. Those who sign up after 3 will have an opportunity to speak at the next regularly scheduled board meeting. Groups representing a consistent viewpoint are encouraged to select one spokesperson to address the board. 30 minutes have been reserved for public comment, and with our short list, each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When you reach the 1-minute point, I have a signal I'll give you to just know that you have a minute to wrap up your final remarks. Any speakers not called during the period will be invited to speak during the next board meeting. As a reminder to all present, the board and staff generally do not engage in discussion or Q&A directly with those persons participating in public comment or directly with members of the audience. This is the board's opportunity to hear from students, parents, and other stakeholders for deliberation later in the agenda or on future agendas. The board and staff may or may not choose to address any point or issue raised during public comment as they deem appropriate. As an additional reminder, only those persons whom the chair calls upon to speak during public comment may speak, and they may do so strictly during the time they're allotted at the podium. Other members of the audience are not permitted to speak at any time during the board's meeting, including during public comment, during any remarks or comments made by the board or staff, or at other time before adjournment. In addition, public outbursts, applause, hissing, booing, expressions of support or disapproval of any speaker's comments are strictly forbidden. And we appreciate your cooperation, understanding, and compliance. Thank you for that. So our first speaker tonight is Gary Colley.
Good evening. I have a different topic I want to talk about. However, I do want to acknowledge something Justin had said about people that aren't necessarily in agreement with the direction the board is going. There are some very genuine issues that we don't agree with, that we've addressed and will continue to address. The presentations tonight were great. It's nice to hear what people are doing to try to get good employees here and improve that. There are good things happening in the district, no doubt. But there are some things that show a lack of true commitment to engaging with the community. It's nice to hear that the communication is improving district-wide. I'm also very confident that it's improving because of community efforts outside of the district to improve communication as well. But my focus tonight more has to do, and this is my real passion, is what's going on in the classroom with the kids that we teach. When you talk about a 21st century education, it's nice to have the technology and stuff like that, but if there aren't skills like character, responsibility, discipline, motivation, then all those technology skills isn't going to add up to much. As my experience as a classroom teacher, and I also have a lot of anecdotal information, I know Kevin's good at that throughout the community, in talking with teachers, there's a few things based on comments from tonight. One, a highly effective teacher isn't the most knowledgeable about the curriculum. They're knowledgeable about the kid in the class. My family, like Craig's, didn't have a challenge, really. My wife and I are both teachers. We have two outstanding young men that are going to contribute greatly to society, and they would stand up here in front of you too and tell you if they thought you were wrong, because they will stand for issues of integrity, not just the definition of it, but the application of it. But we need to, and I'm going to encourage you, I've asked you this before, I actually asked you at a board meeting several months ago if you would look into some of the issues that impact the learning environment in the classroom. You can put the best science teacher knowledgeable in a classroom with 30 kids. I question class size too. I think class size has a racial determinant that's not just the number of teachers, it's also certain support staff. So when you say 24 kids in a classroom, more than likely there's going to be 30 or more. And there's things that are going on in the classroom that I would like you to take a look at, but if you want an effective classroom teacher, you need to just support the teacher, their classroom control. When a student isn't performing and the teacher's holding them accountable to that, the building administration has to support the teacher in that effort, because oftentimes parents have more sway and pressures put on teachers to adjust. Strong teachers won't adjust. They'll hold the kid accountable. I'm out of time, but I wish you'd look at more of what's going on in a classroom to monitor the teaching environment. It's not just the content.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Francine Thompson.
Hi, good evening. Tonight I'm here to commend your leadership. As a parent of 2 children in the district, I really enjoyed at the last meeting hearing about the TEL survey and all that the district has accomplished. I also appreciated the fact that the district acknowledged the TEL survey results that related to the teachers' uneasiness with the new evaluation process. And I am very confident in the leadership of the district and know that you all will do whatever it takes to be in the best interest of the teachers and their students. I would also like to take advantage of this opportunity before you to thank you for the empowering of parents that has taken place under the new leadership. comparing this leadership to the leadership before you. I remember as a parent how challenging it was to work with the old leadership to advocate for my kids. I remember the attempts that they made to brush me aside because the school and the administration knew what was best for my kids. I was just one of those over-emotional mothers. It ended up that I had to struggle to find my way through multiple levels of administration in order to advocate for my kids and to do what was in their best interest. Once the new leadership was put into place, the culture in the district changed, and the problems that used to take lots of times and multiple levels of administrations to solve were easily taken care of at the school level in a collaborative manner, which is the way it should be. So thank you for not only establishing a school choice and empowering parents to choose the school that best fits their child, but thank you for establishing a culture that promotes parental empowerment when it comes to matters of advocacy. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
And thank you for that comment. We'll move now to the acceptance of the agenda. Director Richardson, any comments?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. First of all, I'm struck by both of the speakers tonight and the comments they made, and I think they're both helpful to this board. And I think it's interesting that I've sensed a sense of common ground on some things that I have not sensed before in statements made in public. And so I want to acknowledge that. I think that's an important thing to acknowledge. On the concept of what works in the classroom, I don't think there's any member of this board that thinks that content and technology, while they're important tools, are the defining characteristic of the great teacher. I have a view, based at least on my own experience with teachers in my life who've made such a huge difference for me and my observation of teachers in the lives of my children. I adhere to the David Brooks of the New York Times school of thought, which is that we learn best from people that we love. That's why children tend to learn from their parents. And so teachers are effective, it seems to me, when they're able to achieve that kind of a connection with their students. When their students respect them, admire them, care about them, are horrified at the idea of letting them down, that love them. It is about love. And that's a hard thing, admittedly, to capture, but we've got to try as we evaluate our professions. We have no choice but to try, because if we're successful in determining which teachers have achieved that kind of connection with their students, then we will light the path. We will sustain those that are doing it, and we'll light the path to those who are not. I also want to acknowledge that the second speaker's comments about the importance of parental choice and parental involvement. We've said from the very beginning that there's no more accurate decision maker about what works for the idiosyncrasies of any particular child than his or her parent. That too is a function of love. That's a function of the intensity of interest that parents naturally have for their children, their proximity to their children, the enduring aspect of their time with their children. And so part of what we're trying to do here is create a partnership between teachers and parents that involves collaboration, and that gives parents an important say in shaping the environment that works for their children. So I think in those two speakers, we heard what I hope is a sense of common ground in the always interesting and controversial aspects of a complex topic about which reasonable people can disagree. How do we successfully organize the delivery of educational services in this county and in this country? So I want to thank both of the speakers, thank them for what they had to say, and thank them for the helpfulness of their comments.
I want to thank you for that thoughtful remark, because it actually reminded me to make a remark of my own. I was one of those fortunate people who not only learned from my parents, but then my parent became a classroom teacher. And she did it after starting out with at a young age, having a family, and making sacrifices along the way, and deferring her dream, and then going to college about the same time I did, graduating a year after I did, and then showing it was never too late. She was able to have a 27-year career teaching English at a middle school, and then finally at a high school. And my mother is retiring this month after that career, and so I just want to personally salute her, as she's a great exemplar of terrific teachers that we have not only in our district but throughout our country. And so my hat's off to Carol Larson, the teacher. Thanks. Okay. Any other final remarks before we move into the agenda? Okay. The agenda is on the table, and I would entertain a motion to accept.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Director Benevento, seconded by Director Richardson. Director Benevento?
Aye.
Larson, aye. Mendoza?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is accepted. And it takes us to the adoption of the consent agenda. Any questions on the consent agenda, or is there a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Director Benevento, seconded by Mendoza. Benevento?
Aye.
Larson, aye. Mendoza?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
And Williams?
Aye.
All right, that takes us to our action items, which is item number 26. The annual contract renewals and non-renewals of employment. Do we have any prefacing remarks, or?
Nope, the resolution's in there. It's just an annual item that we renew the contracts for. This is administrators, technical and professional employees, so ProTech.
Okay.
Motion to accept.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Director Williams, seconded by Richardson. Benevento? Larson, aye. Mendoza?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to the study and action items, number 27, Amalgamated Transit Authority contract negotiations and tentative agreement.
I'd like to invite Mr. Brian Caesar, Chief Human Resource Officer again, to just briefly update the board on, we have completed successfully negotiations with ATU and wanted to have this as a separate item so that Brian could talk to you a little bit about that and perhaps others.
Yeah, I just want to let you know we completed a multi-month process of going through negotiations with the ATU, and I'd like to introduce some of the people. In fact, Robin maybe can do a brief intro on the negotiating team and talk a little bit maybe about the process.
Hello again. I have the honor of being on the negotiation team this year. Okay, there you go, yes. Just want to say I had the great honor of being on the negotiation team. So today we have Shari Hurd, she's here, and Shari's the new president of the ATU, and Gary Schreers. Thank you, Gary, for your service to ATU. So Gary resigned this year. And then we have our new vice president, Troy Doyle, sorry, is the new VP for ATU. So it was an excellent process. It was very positive. It was a very collaborative process this year. We made a lot of great progress for both sides, for both the district and the ATU, and we reached a great number of agreements. Do you need me to go over the agreements, the changes in the contract? Some highlights I think you did that already?
Yeah, the changes are in the board packet, so they have all of that information in writing. So, and if they have any questions though for you about the process or anything, I just I'm glad that Brian had Robin come up just because it was a very positive experience on both sides and just a really great collaboration and final agreement.
First of all, I would just like to thank former President Gary Schwiers for his many years of service to the district and prior years of service in law enforcement capacity for the people of the state. And want to acknowledge that and welcome the new leadership team at ATU and thank you for a great introductory experience in terms of the collaboration and ease with which we were able to work together and achieve a result that's good for your membership and good for the district. So I want to thank you for that and acknowledge it. I'm ready to vote.
If I could, Director Larson, just one word. I also want to thank Bill Moffett. He is on the negotiating team and did a fantastic job. And I want to formalize my acceptance and welcome to the new team and Sherry in particular. So, pleasure.
Well, I concur that it's refreshing that we've had a positive collaborative experience, and with that, I think we're ready to vote on this item. So is there a motion to, is that the motion made by Director Richardson? Seconded by Director Benevento. Benevento.
Aye.
Larson. Aye. Mendoza.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Williams. Okay, that is accepted. Leaving us with one major item to do. That's adjourn. If anyone is so moved. Okay, Director Mendoza moves. Okay, Benevento.
Aye.
Larson. Aye. Mendoza.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
We are adjourned.